Good day, sir. Good day to our classmate. We are the group 11, and today we will discuss the topic about introduction to welding. So let's proceed on the energizer.
For this energizer, we will pick a one, this or that, and then we will explain it. Next, game rule. Look at the pictures. Second, choose one and explain why. Third, listen to your friends and your classmate. Next po. This or that, for me, beach because I like to swim and go to beach because it's giving me a peace of mind.
Okay, next, dog or cat. So I prefer dogs because mas mas mabait and medyo madikit sila sa atin, di ba? Unlike sa cat din, may allergy kasi ako sa balahibo ng pusa. So, mas preferred ko po ang dog. Next po.
And I will choose mobile phone kasi napaka-flexible niya. Pwede mo siya dalhin kahit saan, unlike sa laptop na masyado siyang malaki and mabigat compared sa cellphone. Ayun po.
Next po, Serrano.
I will choose airplane because I will choose airplane because in case lang na may mangyaring crash. Hindi naman yung bagsak ko sa dagat, may chance na sa dagat.
And for the last, Miss Gonzalez.
Between face-to-face class or online class, I think I prefer face-to-face class because dito tayo, sa palagay ko, dito natin mas mafe-feel na nag-aaral tayo. No offense naman sa nag-online class, but I prefer attending class face-to-face po.
Thank you for all your wonderful questions. Let's proceed to our main topic. Next slide, please. Introduction to welding and effects of heating and cooling metal. Next slide, please. Learning outcomes. At the end of this lesson, the learners are expected to know what are the process and how welding works. Second, understand different types of welding. Third, discover the effects of heating and cooling. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, my fellow group mates. I am the reporter in welding. Next slide, please. What is welding? Welding is a fabrication process that involves fusing two or more parts together using heat, pressure, or both to form a joint as a parts of cool. Welding is the most commonly associated with metals and thermoplastics. Welding techniques used for joining metallic parts usually through the application of heat. As far as I know, we are all familiar in welding. This technique was discovered during efforts to manipulate iron into useful shapes. So basically, by melting the base metal and the filler metal at the high temperatures, two metals can join together. This process is known as welding. Next slide, please. Wait lang. Thank you. Next reporter, Miss De Lima. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am Lorraine De Lima and I will discuss process of welding. Next po. So shielded metal arc welding stick. Manual metal arc welding, MMA or MMW, also known as shielded metal arc welding or ISMAW. Flux shielded arc welding or stick welding is a process where the arc is struck between an electrode flux coated metal rod and the workpiece. Both the rod and the surface of the workpiece melt to create a weld. So yung SMAW, it is usually na ginagamit or ito yung basic welding process because of a part of being easy to use, and also it is a cheapest welding process. There you have a welding rod. Yung welding rod, it is a bullet, bala, or yung stick na nalulusaw to make it the two steel stick together. And yung SMAW, it is a very flexible because you can take it anywhere, but not all the SMAW welding machine are lightweight. Meron kasing mga mas mabibigat na SMAW. And meron din siyang high electric voltage. The lighter current, the thinnest metal, and the higher current naman is the thickest metal. And also, it is the affordable kasi maliit lang siya. Next po. Next is submerged arc welding or sub-arc. Sub-arc welding is often an automated or machine welding procedure that can only work in a flat environment. Carriages, rotating rollers, and other equipment may cost a lot of money in both vertical and horizontal orientations. So, this sub-arc is a welding machine used in quality products for joining metal. Kasi yung sub-arc, it is a work in machine. Yung pinaka-machine talaga yung nag-work. Hindi siya ginagamitan ng tao or binibit-bet. Kasi yung napakalaki kasi netong machine na to. Kaya ginagamit lang siya sa mga company, sa mga industry talaga. Also, it is not flexible to weld in different steels for combining metal, and it's very high quality and very clean and solid because sub-arc, it is a automated machine. Ayun po. Next is flux cord arc welding of flux cord. Flux cord arc welding or FCOW is a productive and straightforward welding method that is widely used in industry. Flux cord arc welding is a type of electric resistant welding that uses an electric current to penetrate metals and join them. So the flux cord is only one of the most easy to use and high quality production because it is easy to use and easy to control, and it is often used in stainless steel for splicing. And the only difference between flux cord and SMAW, it is a clean habang gumagawa ka neto or nagwe-welding ka, kung ano yung bala o yung stick na nilagay mo, ganun din siya pag nilagay mo dun sa, pag pinagdikit mo yung bala. Unlike sa SMAW, there's something called tack weld. Yung tack weld, ito yung pag winelding mo, nagiging black siya, so hindi ganun kaganda. Kailangan mo pa siyang tiktikin para makita mo yung pinaka-process o yung pinagdikit mo. And you need to clean it before you see the joining metal. Ayun nga yung sabi ko. So, highly recommended yung flux cord kasi it is immediately joining metal. Next po.
Good day, everyone. I am Siren D. Eliasa, the next reporter. So let's proceed. Gas metal arc welding or GMAW. Let me define first. This is a process wherein electric arc is formed between the metal and a wire electrode. So basically, when we say gas metal arc welding, it is an arc welding process in which the source of heat is an arc formed between consumable metal electrode and the workpiece with an externally supplied gaseous shield of gas, either inert such as argon or helium. So unlike po sa SMAW na na-mention po kanina ng first reporter, it only uses electrode and a welding gun. While here in the GMAW, we uses a gas like helium and argon with a solid wire electrode to create a strong and solid connection between metals. So next. Gas metal arc welding or GMA was also known as metal inert gas or MIG. Is one of the easiest welding technique to learn. Using this welding technique, an operator feeds a solid wire electrode wire with a welding gun. Due to its simplicity, MIG or metal inert gas welding is preferred choice for beginners. Some people claim that MIG welding is no harder than using a glue gun. Although the technique is more involved, there is no doubt that almost anyone can learn it very quickly. So basically po, kahit ang common na alam natin na At ang nakikita natin na welding is yung SMAW, pero mas madali po pala ang GMAW. Since dito po kasi parang gumagamit ka lang daw po ng glue gun. Ibig sabihin, continuous lang po yung paglabas ng bala niya. Unlike dito sa shielded metal arc welding, medyo mas malakas din po yung kinecreate niyang yung fire po, yung talsik po ng kuryente. So yun po. The difference din po pala no, ng picture, makikita niyo po sa picture sa baba, yung nasa left side po, yan po yung GMAW na makikita po natin na maganda po, yung construction niya is may lumalabas pong gas mula dun sa pinagmumulan ng welding gun. Well naman po dito sa SMAW, ang makikita po natin, ikinakabit sa tip yung electrode. Next is ways to apply. Next is the types of MIG welding. So the first type is number 1 is short circuit transfer. Short circuit transfer occurs when the wire contacts the metal, creating short circuit. During the short circuit, the wire contacting the metal heats up and melts into the joint by creating a puddle from contact. The welding wire touches the metal. Electricity goes through the gun and a short circuit is created. The effect is a wet metal puddle that quickly solidifies and fuses together materials together. So basically po dito po ang type ng pag-welding po dito sa way na to, yung short circuit is ginagawang short circuit to create a metal paddle na nagiging parang nagki-create po ng pag-welding. Dito po, ang ginagawa is idinidikit yung tip ng solid wire doon sa mismong metal para po magkaroon ng short circuit. Then, gaya po na sabi ko kanina, magbobuo po siya ng wet paddle-like na natunaw po na solid wire electrode. So, ang mangyayari po, mag-iwan po siya ng gantong parang circular na image po or result. Next is the spray transfer. Minute molten droplets of metal travel via the arc and on the base metal or the joint being worked on. Spray arc welding is technically a spray of molten metal transfer over the arc, similar to water coming out from the garden hose with a restricted opening. Spray arc welding reduces a welding splatter and produces a weld with higher finesse level. So dito naman po, kung kanina sa short circuit, idinidikit yung tip ng solid wire electrode sa metal. Dito naman po, hindi na idinidikit, nagkakaroon po ng space and continuous lang yung pagtulo ng natunaw na electrode. So kung mapapansin niyo po, yung pagtulo is constant. Yun po yung spray transfer and maliliit lang po. Parang kinumpare nga siya sa droplets nung sa gripo nung kapag natulo, but yung constant and medyo maliit lang yung size niya. Next is the globular transfer welding. Type of transfer refers to the state of transfer between short circuit and spray arc transfer mode. Large globules of wire are expelled off at the end of the electrode wire and enter the weld paddle. Similar or a combination of short circuit method and spray transfer method. An electrode wire arcs and touches the base material. However, there is a higher heat input and the wire is heated for a longer period. This creates a larger weld paddle which collects at the tip of the gun and drips into the joint. So, ito naman po is combination po siya ng first two, yung short circuit and spray transfer. Kasi po, nagki-create, kinumpare siya sa short circuit since iniipon niya rin po, nagagawa rin po siya ng paddle na iniipon yung mga natunaw na electrode. Then, kinumpare din po siya sa spray transfer since yung way niya po ng pagtunaw is similar po sa spray. Ang pinagkaiba lang medyo malaki yung droplets na nilalaglag niya or binababa. And kapag sa ano po kasi sa spray, constant po, gaya ng na-mention kanina, continuous or constant yung space, yung pag-drop ng bawat isa. Dito naman po, hindi po siya constant. Kumbaga, iniipon niya po muna sa katutulo. Ganun po ang ginagawa niya. So next is the pulse spray transfer. A modified spray transfer process in which the power source switches between a high peak current or voltage and a low background current or voltage between 30 to 400 times per second. During this switch, the peak current pinches off a droplet of wire and propels it to the joint at the weld joint. The pulse spray transfer is similar to the spray arc method but modified to remove potential disadvantages. The welder will pulse the voltage many times per second, allowing a droplet to form at the end of the wire that gets pushed across the arc into the paddle. So, in short po, no, para mas madaling maintindihan, ito pong pulse spray, ang ginagawa niya naman po, kung makikita niyo po dito sa diagram, nandun po siya sa high peak nung diagram, dun po siya magtutulo ng mga droplets. Then, kapag nasa baba naman po, yun yung pinaka-rest niya. Kumbaga, hindi siya magtutulo ng mga droplets. Kaya, almost same din po sila nung na-mention ng mga una. So, next type po ng pag-welding is the gas tungsten arc welding or the GTAW. A type of arc welding which produces the weld using a non-consumable tungsten electrode. Inert gas such as argon or helium are used to protect the area being welded from the contamination and although not all, welding application will require filler metal. So dito naman po, medyo iba na siya sa na-mention kanina yung SMAW and GMAW. Kasi itong GTAW is just like a soldering process wherein there is a filler that uses to create a strong weld. No? Ito kung makikita niyo po, itong nasa kulay puti na itong nasa gilid nung diagram, is yan po yung filler. Then yung pinaka nasa center po, yung po yung mismong welding gun. So dito po sa picture, mas malinaw natin makikita yung difference po nila. So, yan po. Kaya po siya na-compare sa soldering process kasi di ba ganun din po yung ginagawa natin pag tayo nagsosolder. Meron pong filler na tayong ginagamit na siyang tinutunaw nung mismong soldering iron. Dito naman po ganun din. May filler din na ginagamit na tutunawin po nung welding gun. That's all po. Thank you.
Good day, everyone, especially to our professor. I am Elamine Serrano, and my topic is careers in welding together with Miss Ariana Gonzalez. Welders enjoy working their hands and are not afraid to get dirty while doing so. Welders take pride in their work and strive to do their best on each project. And when starting a career in welding, there are a variety of job options for those who have completed their degree and are looking for work. And these are the 7 careers in welding. Next slide. First is the assemblers and the fabricators. Assemblers are the workers who look for faulty components and mistakes throughout the assembly process. They use hand tools and machines to make vehicles, toys, electronic devices, and other items. So, assemblers and fabricators, this is a job that calls for a careful repetition. As what I've said a while ago, they are the ones who look for faulty components. That's why they need to be careful and they're in their work and able to perform it successfully because they are the one that finishing the touches of the product or the infrastructure, such as the transportations and also boats, aircraft, and the ship. Next slide po. Next is the boiler makers. Boiler makers are tradespeople who is responsible to cut, shape, assemble, and weld steel to construct and repair metal products and structures for boilers, ships, iron and steel structures, and other vessels. So boiler makers, they are the ones that produce steel fabrications rather, such from plates and tubes. And also um, boiler makers usually they're required to go to the job site because their work can be done on site or actually, and they can perform their job virtually, unlike us. And also, this area of employment may need some regional or national travel in order to execute nga yung welding on the instructor, and that needs to be worked on. Next slide. Next is the jeweler, precious stone, and the metal workers. Jewelers and precious stone and metal workers create and produce new pieces of jewelry by cutting, setting, and polishing gemstones, repair or adjust rings, necklace, bracelet earrings, and other jewelry, and appraise jewelry, precious metals, and gems using a variety of common and specialist equipment. So the jewelers and precious stone and also the metal workers, we all know that they spend their days seated on over a specific piece or jewelry. And also, the majority of the jewelry that they work on will be more expensive items and will be valuable stones and metal like gold because they are has a high value, and they fix it in order to increase the value of the jewelry that they work on. Next slide. Thank you. Ayan po yung mga jeweler. Next slide po. And the fourth one is the machinist, tool and the die maker. Machinists and tool and die makers are responsible to set up and operate a variety of computer-controlled and mechanically controlled equipment to produce precision metal parts, instruments, and tools. So the welders they are responsible to work on welding parts, machinery, or tools that are utilized in a range of industries such as the transportations, such as cars, trucks, and buses, like the assemblers and the fabricators, and also or the construction. They also construct, such as welding and finishing of the construction tools. And this group of welders frequently works at night and weekend in order to complete their jobs on time so that yung mga other na automotive or construction projects, they can continue their schedule. Yan lang po.
Next reporter po will be Miss Gonzalez Aliana.
Good day, I am Aliana Gonzalez, and I will still continue discussing this topic, which is under the careers in welding. So for our fifth career, we have these sheet metal workers. They are also known po as sheet metal mechanics. They are welders who are responsible for welding sheets together to come up with a specific product. Sheet metal workers build and repair goods for drainage and roofing purposes. But they also fabricate and repair elements of heating, cooling, and ventilation system. Okay, so when we say sheet metal workers po kasi, usually these workers are the one who design, install, and maintain metal products. I mean, particularly sheet metal products. And as we observe, anywhere we look po, we will see something na ginawa ng mga sheet metal workers. Example po ng sheet metal products ay yung mga home appliance housings, building fixtures, automotive bodies, and even po yung mga kitchenware and utensils na ginagamitan kahit ng kaunting application lamang po ng sheet metal parts. Ito pong career or workers ang mga gumagawa noon. Sila po yung nagpa-fabricate at nag-install ng ganoong products. So clearly, we can say that this career may under in construction work. However, they are particularly under the trade din po. So they do a lot of welding in this career. That is why sheet metal workers are commonly found in construction site, metal shops, or even sa mga manufacturing facilities. And in addition po, aside from welding, maintenance po. Maintenance ay isa rin sa mga specialty ng ating mga sheet metal workers. Next slide, please. Next, we have this metal and plastic machine worker. These are the workers who set up and run machines that cut, shape, and mold. Excuse me, rinig po ba yan? Next slide. We have this metal and plastic machine worker. These are the workers who set up and run machines that cut, shape, and mold metal and plastic materials or pieces. So they are known as metal and plastic machine workers. So aside from those work, these workers or welders also monitor and adjust machines during the operation of the machine. Yung mga machine na ina-adjust nila or ina-operate nila ay yung mga machine na ginagamit natin sa paggawa ng bottles, pati rin po yung mga molding machine. So these are the machines that are being supervised or monitored by metal and plastic machine workers. And aside from monitoring, this career also include work such as constructing machines and setting them up according to the technical specifications. And also they have to supervise the machinery rather, to make sure that the specific machine runs smoothly. So that's how the metal and plastic machine workers do po. Next slide, please. Okay, for our last career in welding, we have plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters. Plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters are the workers, welders, who are responsible for assembling, installing, repairing pipe system to transport water, chemicals, and waste. Plumbers fix the water drainage and gas lines in home and businesses. So these three careers are merely different to each other pa rin po. Plumbers work mostly in residential and commercial settings. Yung mga pipe fitters naman po, they are specialized in high pressure pipe system. That's why they work most commonly in industrial settings. However, yung mga stem fitters naman po natin, they are the workers who work in all kinds of places. Pwede sila sa industrial buildings and also in construction site. Sa madaling salita, may pagkakaiba sila. These three careers perform distinct specialized roles. However, despite of those similar differences, their duties are often similar. Sa paanong paraan? For example, they all install pipes and feeds and that carries water, air, and even gases. Dinidetermine din nila yung mga necessary material for the job. And from their turns, they do connect pipes and perform pressure tests to make sure po na yung buong pipe system is on good condition. aside from those specialization, they also install and repair pipes that is within sa mga businesses, homes, and even sa mga factories. So looking at our job in this career, we can clearly say na sobrang lawak. That's how wide their job is. So these workers are being employed in construction industry. That would be all for our part. Thank you.
And now, we will proceed to lesson 3, effects of heating and cooling metal. Next slide, please. Heat transfer. The heat transfer within the droplets and whirlpool includes ohmic heating, conduction, and convection. The heat transferred from the arc plasma includes conduction and heat through thermal effect at the surface of the anode and cathode. Most of these forces and heat flux terms change as a function of time. Next slide po. Pabalik na lang po. Parang hindi ko nalagay yung ano. Sa heat transfer, dun po yung I think the best example of this heat transfer is pag nagpapakulo tayo ng tubig. Kasi po 'di ba, from heat, yung init po sa kalan, napupunta po siya sa tubig. At dun po nag-start kumulo at makikita po natin doon yung convection, conduction, and radiation that I will discuss afterwards po. Next slide, please. Radiation. Radiation is the transmission of heat from one place to another by means of infrared radiation which can travel through vacuum or air. Example dito kung nag-aano tayo, ano bang tawag doon? Sige, sa kalan na lang ulit tayo. Kapag dinapat mo doon yung kamay mo doon sa mismong kalangan o sa kandila, hindi ka mapapasok. Pero mararamdaman mo na mainit. Hindi ka totally directly na mapapasok, pero mararamdaman mo doon na mainit siya. Ayun yung tinatawag na radiation. Next slide, please. Next slide po.
Hello po. Sorry po, naglalag yung laptop. Okay na po ba?
Conduction heat transfer in gases and liquids is due to the collisions and diffusions of the molecules during their random motion. On the other hand, heat transfer in solid is due to the combination of latticed vibration of the molecules and the energy transport by free electrons. The transfer of heat through a material by direct contact. Yun po yung pag nilagay nyo naman po yung kaldero kapag nilagay mo sa apoy, pag hinawakan mo yon, doon mo mararamdaman na napasok ka na. Andun na po yung heat, nag-transfer na po siya sa fan. Next slide po. Convection. Convection. In this process, heat is transferred by the flow of hot and cold air. In this process, is applied in the heating of water by immersion, heater, or heating of buildings. Sa convection naman po, the boom vents within the fluid produced by the porosity of hotter and hence less dense material to rise the colder, denser material to sink under the effect of gravity, resulting in the heat transfer. Makikita nyo naman po dito sa picture kung paano siya, yung flow, yung process po ng ano niya. Kumbaga, pag mainit na, nagda-direct na, yung mainit, pumupunta siya sa ibabaw, tapos yung malamig sa ibabaw, pumupunta siya sa ilalim. Next slide po.
And I will be discussing about the heat treatment. So the term, next slide. So the term heat treatment, it refers to the process of heating metal without letting it to melt or reach a molten state, and then carefully cooling it to the choose to appropriate mechanical property. practice. In the heat treatment, there has three stages. First is the heating the metal slowly to ensure that the metal maintains a uniform temperature. The second stage is soaking or holding the metal at a specific temperature for an allotted period of time. And lastly is the cooling the metal to to the room temperature. Next slide po. So, in process of heating metal treatment, there is quenching. The quenching is the quick cooling of a metal object from the high temperature at which it was formed as by immersion in oil or water. Typically, this is done to preserve mechanical characteristics of a crystalline structure or phase distribution that will be lost following slow cooling. Typically, the process is used to provide hardiness to the steel object. On the other hand, by the heating and quenching copper objects that been harmed or otherwise deformed at ordinary temperatures and being hardened can be returned to the playable state. Next slide po. So the next one is the normalizing. Normalizing is defined heat treatment process where a material is hold at the temperature for a certain period of time. It is usually 10 to 20 minutes and then allowed to cool freely in the air to reach room temperature. The normalizing process is used applied to metals that have been subjected to thermal or mechanical hardening process and require their microstructure to be normalized, and after normalizing the metal gets back is ductility and the hardiness is reduced. Next slide po. So next one is the hardening heat treatment. Hardening heat treatments invariably involve heating to the sufficiently high temperature to dissolve solute-rich precipitates the metal. It is being rapidly cooled to avoid reprecipitation. Often this is done by quenching in water or oil. The concentration of solute dissolved in the metal is now much greater than the equilibrium concentration. This is produced what is known as solid solution hardening, but the alloy can usually be hardened appreciably more by aging to allow a very precipitate to form. Aging is done at elevated temperature that is still sufficiently high temperature to dissolve. Next slide po. So the next stage is the tempering. Tempering is a heat treatment that improves the toughness of hard brittle steels so that they can hold up during processing. Tempering requires that the metal reaches the temperature below what's called the lower critical temperature, depending on the alloy. This temperature can range from 40 and to 1,300 Celsius Fahrenheit. Thank you.
And that's for our report. Thank you for listening and participating. Thank you.